Hey everyone, Sparks back with another Goddess of Victory nikke video, and we have the beta 2.0 of overclock mode for Simulation Room. Now, this is something that I've been looking forward to. Controversial opinion, I really liked Simulation Room from the very beginning, but of course, like any game mode, it does get old after a while, and I was really excited for the idea of a high difficulty mode that would, be exciting for me to play again, that I might need to strategize on. And we had the original beta like a couple months ago at this point, and now we are getting the second beta version. So let's talk about what it's like, some strategies for beating it, what my personal experience was, and then just if I think it got better or worse, or if it's good, what characters I use, stuff like that. All right, anyway, let's go ahead and just get into it. So first off, I'd like to say I really like the new look of it. So this looks very distinct. It looks cool. It looks like we're in a new higher difficulty mode. So good look on the opening menu here, or screen, or whatever, when you switch over to the overclock mode. So good job on that, shift up. Is it hard? No, not really, and this is one of the things that I really found disappointing. Honestly, I feel like I'm kind of disappointed overall by this second beta here, because it just wasn't that hard. I beat it on my first try, okay? I put the ratio up to 25, which is still the highest ratio you can get rewards for, and I just beat it. I didn't even have to manual anything. I did have one small hiccup towards the end of it, and I'll talk about that later on when we get into sort of more of the strategy that I used. But basically, I just autoed it. I just went with the first team that I had, and it was no problem. Now, granted, I am a pretty high level account, but I'm definitely not the highest level account. I'm not a whale. There are people that have far stronger accounts. But I am a day one player, so this could still definitely pose a challenge for many other players, but this isn't something that's going to provide a challenge for the really high level players, which is disappointing, because it just kind of doesn't really do that much for me or people that are even stronger than me. But with that in mind, let's take a look at the modifiers that I did use, okay? So the first thing was prepare for simulation. Nikke's level 400 and above will remain at 400. So this is just what everybody gets automatically, right? That's the default equalization. So if you've built up a super high level account, then it won't matter. So I mean, honestly, it does make it so I'm even more comparable to the mega whales, right? And again, this still wasn't a big challenge for me. But anyway, so let's see what the first actual modifier was that I used. So enemy armor up 1. So at the start of the battle, defense of raptures will increase by 10%. Now you can increase this all the way to 20 or 30%, I believe it is. I just went with the 10%. Also, enemy up, vitals up 1. So at the beginning of the battle, HP of the raptors increases by 20%. And then I went with aggressive tactics. Normal difficulty will not appear for battle stages. Options besides battle stages will have a reduced chance of appearing. So basically, this will reduce the option of just getting a spec up or a recovery thing or something like that. And you can only do hard stages. There's no normal stages that are going to appear here. This, I think, is definitely a really valuable one that people want to go with, because as long as you're strong enough to be doing this overclock mode in the first place, it just makes it so you can't skip stages. You can't do the quick battles, but that's fine. This keeps you from having to put on some really difficult modifiers. And then the next one I did was Rush Hour 3. The duration of destroy is reduced by 30%. So basically, you just have less time to do the stages. I think this is one that people probably also want to do. You could potentially go higher on those defense and HP ones that I had, only at level 1 as well. Just because if you have a huge console upgrade, so you're getting big buffs already, you could go with that. But I didn't need to go that high. I could put modifiers on other things, so just keep that in mind. But if you have a really built up recycling room, maybe you can go higher on those. Also, maybe if you don't reduce your time as much, you can go higher, but just keep in mind it's going to take a while to just chew through HP, even if they're not killing you. So that's why I kept those a little lower, and then I just reduced my time, and I didn't have a problem. Again, this is just the first batch that I did, and I just I won. So I didn't have to worry about it. You know, there wasn't like a ton of extra strategy that I had to put into this. Okay, so what's next? Eyes on You. Disabled Nikke's damage share effect. So any Nikkes that have like damage sharing, so like Jackal is one that comes to mind. I just disabled that because I didn't think I really needed to use a lot of units that use that. And I think for most people, this is an easy win. You can just put that on too. And then solo debut, you can't include Nikkes of the same squad in the battle squad. Now this is something that I think is another easy win for people that have a large library of Nikkes to choose from. If of course you have a newer account, you don't have as many Nikkes, this might actually be one that you go with anyway because you don't even have Nikkes on the same squad. But also if you don't have alternatives to choose from and you're kind of banking on being able to use like bunnies or schoolgirls, then this is going to be a more difficult one for you to choose. So basically this is the anti-bunny or schoolgirls modifier here. But you, like I said, if you have alternatives that are good, then like this is another kind of like easy win to go with. Now, there are some other things that you might want to consider besides those obvious pairings. It does reduce the ability to use some pilgrims, right? So, like, you can't use, like, Modernia and Scarlet on the same squad. So, keep that in mind. Depending on your primary attackers, this may be a more difficult one as well, because it can limit your ability to double up on some of the most powerful units. But again, we'll show you my squad in just a second here. Okay, and then code fix 1, all raptors remain water. Sure, like this is a super easy win. Everyone should go for this. It just makes them all water type. Great. They're weak to electric. Is going to help you if you have strong electric units. If not, like it kind of just doesn't matter. You don't really need to worry about it. As long as you're not making an entire squad made of fire, then this is just kind of like a negligible effect that is just like a non-factor. Okay, and then I did relevant personnel only. A high difficulty battle will appear right before the boss stage instead of an options selection, and increased chance of advanced buffs appearing when clearing the hard mode battle. So this, you'll get increased rewards, but you're also increased risk, right? So oftentimes before the boss in normal mode, you will be able to like heal all your units or spec up and make them all like triangles or all squares or whatever. So this eliminates that possibility. Instead, you're going to have a difficult fight right before the boss. So you're risking, taking a bunch of damage or even some of your units dying, but you'll also get a strong reward, potentially like epic buff or SSR buffs, things like that. So this is a good one to go with. I think this one is it could go either way. If you have healers, then I think you just don't need to do this. Also, keep in mind, I did this without having any legacy buffs. Well, I had the one legacy buff for just passing the normal simulation room. So if you don't know what that means, if you're new to the game, you can keep one buff after each clear of simulation room, and they'll accumulate over the days, right? But since this was the first day, I only had the one, so I didn't have to save up multiple buffs to make it easier. I just went in with like my one buff, and that was fine. So just a little side note there. I think particularly if you have a lot of buffs built up ahead of time, then this becomes an even easier one to select, because maybe you've already made sure most of your buffs are like the same code and you don't need to worry about it. But again, this just wasn't even a factor that I had to worry about for my particular run. And then I did end up getting an epic buff from this, I believe. It was one that healed me by 4% at the end of each stage, although honestly, I didn't realize I was already to the end of the simulation room, so it was actually a bad one to go with because I didn't even get to utilize it. But that would in theory be a very strong buff to like recover every time if you got it early on. Okay, and then the last buff was enemy weapon up 2. So all at the start of the battle, attack of raptors increases by 20%. This is actually interesting. This is one that you select more towards the beginning, but whatever. So I went with enemy weapon up 2. I originally had this on enemy weapon up 1, but I was 1 short on the ratio. I was only at 24, so then I just bumped this up to be 20%. I think it was easier to make their attack a little higher than like increasing their HP, because I just want to be able to clear it quicker. I don't want to end up running into a time problem just because I'm like chewing through a bunch of like tanky enemies, right? All right, so those were the modifiers that I went with. Now let's take a look at my squad. So for my squad, I originally went with Leader and Nero, Rapunzel, Black Shadow Scarlet, and Modernia. Okay, so the key here is that no one is on the same squad. So again, I couldn't use like normal Scarlet because I'm using Rapunzel, right? So just as an example, Leader is, you know, really good for constantly repairing your cover. Obviously, the other things that Leader is all good for. And then the Rapunzel and Nero combo is just extremely good. So since we're not able to use like the bunnies or schoolgirls, this just gives you a ton of survivability. Basically, I just like never had to worry. There were a couple points when I got a little low on damage, but you know, it was mostly because I was quick charging with Rapunzel and not doing the full charges. And then after I like gave it a little while for her to do full charges again and do more healing, then that just kind of like took care of itself. So Black Shadow Scarlet is going to do a ton of damage. Obviously, she is one of the best units in the game. And then Modernia was my second choice. I would have liked to use Red Hood here, but again, I can't because she's on the same squad as Black Shadow Scarlet. So I use Modernia here. And although Modernia's burst isn't quite as good for the final boss stage, she's still extremely good for all the other stages with her bursting. I did generally want her bursting second because it gave me more bursts overall. So I like could hit Black Shadow's full burst like really early on in the game, and then usually that almost got me to the boss or the target appearing, and then Modernia just like finished it out and, you know, killing a bunch of ads that were out there along with the target as well. So yeah, that was the squad that I went with, and then I want to say it was on the second to last fight or something like that, or the third to last fight. I think it was the second to last fight. Nero actually died. I think I just wasn't paying attention because again I was just doing it in auto mode, and maybe something sniped her or something. But she died, so then I needed a burst to, all my enemies were weak to electric, right? Naga still has really, really useful abilities even when not being used with Tia, and so I put her in there, and again, there was no problem. You know, I cleared the boss stage without any issue. Yeah, so that was kind of like the one hiccup that happened, and then my answer to that. So I would definitely consider these squads. They're quite good. Okay, so now I guess let's just like talk about like my feelings on it overall and like future suggestions, I guess. You know, so the one thing that I really want them to make sure they do is rotating modifiers. And we had some different ones than we did last time, so it seems like they probably will. Okay, so once this actually starts happening every month or however long it is, then you know, they'll probably will be rotating modifiers. So, but I would like to see more than like just a rotating element. So before we made them all iron, this time we can make them all water. I hope we get more different rotating modifiers that we can use here. I think that's really important for keeping this fresh. Otherwise, again, I have it all figured out. I know what's going to work, and then I can just do the same thing every time, and it's like brain off mode, and it's not being a higher difficulty mode. So I want it to be a higher difficulty mode. So maybe besides even having rotating modifiers, we just make it a little bit harder in general because it just wasn't really a challenge, you know, and so it's just not doing anything more for the high level players. Now, if this was a daily grind they have to do all the time, I wouldn't want it to be a super high difficulty mode because it's too much. I don't want to do it. But let's talk about like things that I do like about it. So I like that you have the whole month to do this. So, you know, if it's happening every month, that's great. I think every 2 weeks would be okay too. And then if it's something that I actually really have to concentrate on and do multiple runs on and experiment with, then that's great. You know, because it's only happening once a month or, you know, whatever. I think that is good, and I think they give us a good amount of time, at least in this beta 2.0 here. Also, you know, again, we do have different modifiers than last time, but not much. It's mostly the same, but I mean, it at least we're able to change the element, so it tells me that maybe we'll get some more things here. And then ultimately, it is still, you know, fun. It's a value-adding game mode. We're going to get more resources. Skill up books are like always a huge you know, thing. It can be a bottleneck, and I'm very thankful for it. But, you know, ultimately, what's really changed? Like, I'm not really sure what the point of this like beta 2.0 was. I mean, like it's basically exactly the same as it was, which is fine, but I just don't know like what are we testing here, you know? Like we have the new menu screen, which is cool. We have, you know, one new modifier. Maybe there was a couple I missed. I can't remember exactly what they were, but I don't know. It just seems very samey, you know, and so I'm just not really sure like what the point was. Like, you know, I don't know. I was hyped for it last time, and this time I just ended up being like a little disappointed. Like the experience was just like a little worse, because I just don't really see like what is actually being done here. But all right, let me know your thoughts on the overclock mode, and we're gonna do we're gonna open a high quality mold here in a second. Let me get back into the client. But yeah, let me know, or if you have any questions or, you know, about my strategy or suggestions on like modifiers that you can use, let me know. I'll be happy to try and help you out. Let's go ahead and open up that mold. Give me something good. D, yo. Getting a copy of Double D is amazing. I would have liked to actually get normal D more because I still don't have her, but this is a huge win. One of our best units in the game. So yeah, I will take it. Anyway, subscribe for more Nikke videos. The next video will be an in-depth review of Amelia and different strategies and things that we can do with her. That was actually gonna be the next video before overclock mode came out. And I'll catch you guys on the next video or stream.